Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of Xtreme Memories. I'm your host, Kris Kloss, and we are coming to you exclusively. We are being brought to you by the Wrestling Chatter YouTube channel. Folks, turn the red to gray. Isn't that how it goes? The red goes to gray once you subscribe. So what are you waiting for? Do it, because the more subscribers we get, folks, the more great content will be coming at you right here. So this is Xtreme Memories with Kris Kloss. I am your host. And I want to thank everybody that's been writing in, everybody that's been messaging me personally on Instant Messenger, Facebook. I just want to tell you once again, fans, I'm getting questions for everybody, for my guests today and for everybody else. So if you see that I read your message, don't worry, I will get back to you. So, and again, just because of that, I want to thank you for your continued support. And I'm sure my guest, it's amazing, man, 20 plus years and people are still talking. People are still interested in all this. I had a few messages for you, sir, to know, hey, is Jake going to be on the show? So here we go. And so thank you guys for all your support, for your interest. And also we see all your comments here down below each video. So thank you for that too. And those of you that are asking me questions, I don't mind. But you can also ask those questions down in the comments too, and I'm going to read all those as well. So feel free to do that. Xtreme Memories is going to be on the 15th and 30th of the month. So be sure to share this video, like, subscribe, guys. Once again, please subscribe, and we're going to bring more content to you. My guest this time on Xtreme Memories, man, oh man, this guy, he was there from the get-go, folks, from the infancy days.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, right. Pretty much, though, right at the infancy stages. I'm talking about, he was known as, the tall, cool one himself, Jake Lawless. That's right. Member of the Hierarchy, the first big faction in XPW. Very controversial, too, in the world of professional wrestling. Involving a title switch, very controversial, and how it was bargained with. We'll get into that. I don't think we've ever seen it before or since in pro wrestling.
No.
The white for the green and the green for the gold, or however it works.
I think that goes on behind the scenes in the actual business. We just parodied it live.
Okay, but hey, that made the video, so people know about it. But okay, so my guest this time on Xtreme Memories. Let's welcome once again Jake Lawless, the tall, cool one, sir. How the hell are you doing? It's great seeing you, man.
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good seeing you. It's funny, like I said, I kind of came across from watching, your interview show on YouTube and enjoying it and watching the guys tell stories and the memories that came back. Some of the things I haven't thought of, and it's almost putting here almost 20 years now. It's crazy. But everyone basically for the most part is doing fine. It's funny to see how things turned out. I came to California for the weather basically, and when I first moved here, there's guys that were here that are gone now. They moved back to New York, and they moved to Texas or wherever. I'm a displanted Philadelphian here, soaking up the weather.
Yeah, man. I mean, I remember meeting you for the first time, and it was at the office, and it was like one of the nights before one of the events, and I felt like you were just an easy guy to talk to, approachable, nice guy, and I always had good rapport with you. I had a good rapport with most of the guys, but there were some that they were harder to talk to, and man, you were just like your gimmick, man. Tall, cool one. You were just cool as a cucumber, bro, and easygoing, nice, fair-minded individual. I always saw you, a fair-minded. How can I say this? You didn't walk around like you didn't think your shit didn't stink. You know what I'm saying? And some guys did.
I think for me, I was already. And I'm going to come out and say this too, which is true. I should have had my head examined. I didn't take my first wrestling lesson until I was like 35, literally.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 58 now. So I did it as a lark back home. I didn't really have this concept of wanting to be a wrestler. So when I came out, and we'll get into this later when you lead me up to it, but when I came out to California, a lot of the guys were younger, and they were serious about it. And I think with age comes wisdom, and you kind of sit back and I enjoyed the circus that it was at Xtreme, because it was a circus, and it was fun, and I was part of it, and it was a cool opportunity to like delve into this adult wrestling business, and I had a lot of fun with it. I was very fortunate, people were very fair with me when I asked them to be, and I remember that, and I respect that, and I had a lot of fun, so I was just kind of like sitting back and enjoying the ride, and getting laughs through it, because it was
good stuff.
It was interesting, because you were at the office, what went on to see an adult business running, an adult movie company running, and a wrestling business at the same building.
If that's not a circus, I don't know what is, man.
Everybody on the block used to hate us because the lunch truck would pull up in the morning, so there'd always be the girls out there in their little outfits getting, the little sandwiches and shit. And all the other guys around from the businesses were like, the fuck you guys doing it? Can I curse anyway on this, by the way?
Yeah. That's fine. It's fine.
They're like, what the fuck you guys doing over there? Like, everyone's like, they're like changing tires or moving.
Right.
Yeah. And
how come I'm not working over there, man? Like,
exactly. Yeah. But it was always, it was a circus. I just kind of went along with it,
I remember like when we would talk and like you were cool with like all the ring crew guys, liked you a lot. Like, again, you didn't act like you were better than anybody at all, dude. And it was like refreshing to have that around. Honestly, dude, like I always thought that about you. And I remember like we would joke in the back, and just, hey, what's up, man? And then, but once we get in the ring, I remember I'd always try to bust you up, like, because I would be interviewing and the hierarchy comes out. And you and Damian Steele, and you would be the heel, and I would just kind of give you these little looks, and I can see under your breath, like, no, don't do that, don't do that, like, like I don't want to have to fucking, don't test me right now. Yes, you can make me laugh, but don't, god damn it, Kloss, like, it's fun. Man.
It's hard to be. I mean, it's fun to be the heel because you can be a dick,
Right.
I remember, and I'm sure we'll get into it when you ask me later on, but I remember the first show I did for Xtreme. It was at the Reseda Country Club. It was their second show. And I had come walking out like in this heel kind of attitude. And I walk out and there's like this chick and her boyfriend in the front row. And she's probably, I don't know, 17, 18. I don't know. I didn't card her. And I was like, let me see your boobs. And she just whips her top up and exposes them to me. And her boyfriend's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like yelling at her. I'm just like going, right on,
You're the heel, man. You're the heel.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I just,
you're actually painting a picture right now for some of the fans, especially some of the younger fans right now. It was a different world back then, and we were in a company. We were in a company that was pushing the envelope, and you're just giving an example right there of people that want to go and escape, and that's what XPW was. It was an escape from the real world. It was also an escape from just a regular pro wrestling show, because we had that element of danger. Nothing seemed controlled or official in a way, like anything can happen. We'll get into that too, like how rabid these fans were. But Jake, going back to, okay, like you said, you moved out from Philadelphia. You still got the accent, brother. You haven't lost it. That's awesome, dude. But a lot of people lose their accent, so that's cool that you still have it. And
I like to drink my water.
Oh, there you go. Right. Exactly, man. I know Phil tried to do a good Jake Lawless impersonation, so I think you'll like that. Yeah. But anyway, I'm
gonna do a Phil Lander impersonation right now.
All right. Oh shit.
No, he's gonna hate me now.
The feud is on now. The feud has begun. We've rekindled an XPW feud. It's official. Jake is feuding with Phil right now.
I love Phil.
I know, man. We'll all be getting together hopefully soon, dude. Hanging out. But Yeah, man. Okay, so when you moved out to Philly, you're here in LA. Let's go back though, Jake. How did it happen for you? How did you first get into pro wrestling or liking it, wanting to be a part of it? I know you said you weren't like dreaming to be a pro wrestler, but you obviously knew wrestling. You had a mind for it. Where did that start in your life?
It's a great story because I remember it like it was yesterday. And I'm probably going back to about 1970, 72, 73.
Okay.
Literally. And I'm on my street. I'm hanging with my buddy across the street, and I think we may have been sitting out like on his front step looking at comic books. And he went in the house and he brought out these magazines, and I never seen nothing like it. On the cover of the magazines, there were these guys with bloody heads and stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, and it may have been Andre back then. I don't know, or Chief J Strongbow, or somebody busted up. Maybe the King Curtis. I don't know if you remember King Curtis.
Yeah, I remember. Yep, King Curtis.
Yeah. Yep. And I was like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's called pro wrestling. And I'm like, and I was just enamored. And he goes, and it's on TV. He goes, you can go watch it on Saturdays at I think we had it at 2:00 and 4:00 on, and I'm going back to the 70s. So, I grew up, I didn't have a color TV until I was probably about 15. So it was on UHF TV, right. Which, you had to get the aerials out, and you had your little aerial and stuff. And, he told me what time it was. And when I first started watching it, because I just checked on YouTube, I remember Dean Ho and Tony Gurrier were the champions and I grew up with old school, which is funny that he runs it all now, but I mean, it was WWWF.
Right.
Now I know that there was the territory of New York and Philadelphia and Baltimore. And I think maybe a little bit of Washington, DC. Yeah. But I just started watching it, and you know what, Chris? It was the best because back then, I believed it.
Yes. Right.
And if I was lucky, my mom, my parents had 2 TV. We had one downstairs and they had one up in our room, and it was a little black and white TV. And I'd go up there and, watch. Usually she'd say, yeah, you go watch it upstairs, so because she don't want to watch that. Right. And, but I fell in love with it, man. And it forever, I was just a fan. And back then, I watched it for like 3 or 4 years, and wrestling wasn't cool to watch, for the most part. My friends, no one really was out about talking about wrestling, but my buddy Jack Russo, who lived 2 doors down, was into it too. So we would always share stories and, hey, guess what's coming, and who just, what's coming on. And we were into it, and it was, I can remember getting so excited. My mom would be like, "We stop." I remember when the Blackjacks took on Tony Parisi and Lou Sardan or something. I'd be like yelling on the TV, and sometimes I would watch it because back east you have winters, right? And I was never a big fan of cold weather. And I remember sitting in the back room. Sometimes my mom would be, she'd let me watch it, so it would be on TV. And my dad never really watched it. He would now and then. He only liked Ivan Putski because he was Polish and we're Polish.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
He'd be like, God, look at that strong son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But my mom, it would be funny because like Georgie Animal Steel would come on, and my mom would be like, look at that nut. Look at that. Little did we know he was a high school teacher and, motivated.
Yeah, right.
I mean, those guys lived their gimmick, and it was believable, And no one knew. There was no cable. There's no TV
right.
shows.
I didn't know this till years later. Side story. Speaking of George Animal Steel, my grandfather, my mom's dad, was a city engineer for Santa Monica. He actually designed some of the streets out there. And he worked with George Steele's brother. They were small freaking.
Did he have a green tongue?
He didn't have a green tongue, but he shared a story with us that years when George Steele was first getting in to the business or getting exposure, he was a school teacher. He personally shared the story, school teacher, and then he kind of kept those 2 worlds separate. And then he goes to class one day, and all the students are just silent. They're not saying anything. And then he's, what's going on? And they 1, 2, 3, they all stuck their tongues out and painted their tongues green. Yeah, dude. He's like, oh, cat's out of the bag. You guys know what I do now, you know?
I
Yeah.
mean, which back then was saying something, because before the only information you ever got about other wrestlers, I started buying the magazines, and I would get the
Right.
magazine. It would have the ratings, and
Yeah.
you'd have
Yeah.
NWA,
Yeah.
AWA, and WWF. That's all you had. And you would see stuff in the magazines. And like, even as a young kid, I was like, I couldn't put it together. I'm like, well, how come, we have 3 world champs? How many world champs are there? But
Yeah.
but I would get so excited. I loved wrestling, and then in like 1975, my world changed, because I'll never forget it. I was watching wrestling, and Saturday morning, Vince McMahon's like, next week we got a star coming, blah blah blah. And he mentions this guy's name, and it was long, and I kind of couldn't remember it. So we're out the next day. I'm out on the street with my buddies. We're playing street hockey, and it's in the fall. And we're playing street hockey, and I said to my buddy Jack, that was in the wrestling, I said, "Hey, I go, what's this new guy coming? Because you're always excited, like some new blood."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "I can't wait." So that next Saturday, man, I was in front of the TV, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, have my bowl of ice cream, and I'd prepare for it, sitting there with a bowl of ice cream watching. And Vince McMahon comes on, he goes, "And now we're going to welcome, first time in the area, superstar Billy Graham." And here comes this guy, like, off planet Mars to me. I never seen a bodybuilder back then. This is pre national gym chains.
Right.
Steve Reeves, if you were lucky, you may have seen a Hercules movie on a Sunday on like Chiller Theater, whatever, like the little thing. But no one ever seen a bodybuilder. And then he came out, he was like big blonde hair, big muscles, and and it was awesome.
That was awesome. And then on the mic too, back then, like, there nothing beat it. You were, like you said, you thought it was real. You're captivated by every word, and he was your guy, it sounds like, at a young age.
And he looked the part. Like Bruno back east, when I first started watching wrestling, I was friends with a kid that I hung out with in like junior high, and his dad owned a gas station in Philly, because I grew up actually in the suburbs of Philly, kind of equivalent to like where I'm at now, Simi Valley,
right,
opposed to LA, Right. So I grew up in the suburbs, and my buddy's father owned a gas station. And he's like, wrestling. He's like, Price, is Bruno still champion? And he's like, he's got a hairpiece on. Why? This is the 70s, and Bruno did have that perm kind of hairpiece.
That's
and
true.
Bruno, you didn't see him wrestle on TV ever.
Right.
They would pump it up so you come to the shows, like at the Spectrum, we had. I'm watching it for 3 years at that point, and I'm like, yeah, he's still a champ, And then Billy Graham came out, but I'll tell you a cool story. And Billy Graham actually talks about it to this day. I think it was like about 19. He was saying 77, but it might have been, because Graham had 2 runs. He came in 75, and I think he won the title in 77. But my buddy's father dropped us off at the Spectrum. We helped him work around. He had this business. We helped him do some work for a day, and he gave us each $20.
Oh, cool.
Me and my buddy off at the Spectrum. It was a midday show, like probably around 1 o'clock. And dropped us off the Spectrum, and the place is mobbed, and we're trying to get tickets to see Billy Graham. It was Graham Bruno cage match.
Right.
And wow. It's awesome now because it's on YouTube. That's what blows my mind, that I could watch this.
Wow.
Yeah, to make a long story short, we get there, and it's just this mob of people out in front of the Spectrum. And the Spectrum, held 18,000 people,
Yeah.
And, it's where the Flyers played. And it's like the Staples Center, in essence.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
And we get up there, and we go to the thing, and there's like, it's sold out. I'm like, sold out? Like, because his dad's like, yo, I'll pick you up here like in 4 hours, like at 6 o'clock. And we're like, okay. So it's sold out. So we're standing out there, and I'm 14 or 15 years old at the time, and my buddy's standing next to me, and the place is sold out. And someone is all the crowds are walking inside of the Spectrum, and someone hits the panic bar on one of the glass doors, and it opens up, and I grab the door, and I grab my buddy, and I push him in, and we shut the door. And we're all like nervous, and we're like sneaking through the crowd, and we go all the way up and sit up like in the third level, you know, and the place is mobbed. It's literally mobbed. And we stand on the steps and we watch the show. And to this day, I've never heard a crowd react. It was like electric in there because the people believed it. And when Bruno came out, Bruno came out, and you got, you know, there's a lot of Italians back east, you know, and just the people love Bruno. He was the working class champ. But when Graham came out, you know, Graham had his fans too, you know.
Right.
And it was just, dude, it was like a heavyweight prize fight. It was so cool.
Dude, it was like you were at a sporting event.
Yeah. It was
combined with a little bit of like you're at a rock concert. A little bit of both.
Exactly. I never felt
just the best, man. And so how old were you at that time?
77. I was either 14 or 15 because my birthday's in October. So I was born in 62. So you're probably talking, I was probably about 14 or 15.
All right. Okay. Wow, man. That's incredible, man. The spectrum. So hey, if you want, or one of us could do it, if you have the link to that match, put it in the link down below in the comment section if you want, or if you want us to, guys. I'd love to see that. Now, that's a great story, knowing that you were there as a kid, you snuck in, it was electric, like, you know, sold out, and it was just, it's funny, like people would ask me like, oh, when you do the XPW back in the day, what do? You watch that? I'm like, no, man, I watch all the old stuff, dude, that I grew up with. I'd rather watch that than the XPW at the time. You know what I mean?
I still do. I do. I think the older you get, you chase nostalgia.
Sure.
You know, and you want to get brought back to that moment. And YouTube is so cool now because not only can I see that, I've seen the match that turned me off to pro wrestling for a long time because I hated Bob Backlund. You know, he just he was boring. You know, he looked like Opie. You know, he looked like Opie. He was boring, and you know, I just hated him. And you know, when Graham lost to him, you know, of course, you know, I was still young. I mean, I always knew that there was some kind of chicanery going on. You know, it was obvious, but kayfabe wasn't broken yet, so people still had that. You know, my dad would sit there and say, sometimes he'd be sitting on the floor and I'd be watching wrestling. And he's like, "Look at that bullshit. The guy's talking to him. Oh, it's bullshit."
Yeah,
and I'm kind of like, Dad, you're a fan of John Wayne. You think he's beating up all them guys and shit?
Yeah, that's true. You know, my dad enjoys wrestling, but his dad, my grandpa, oh boy, he was just the same way. Like, what are you watching this phony baloney stuff for? He goes, "You're telling me that guy right there that weighs 200-300 pounds and he's hitting the guy in the head right there with his fist and kicking him? That guy'd be dead by now. What the hell you guys want?" You know, like, hey, we just, but look how the it got people to react either way. Wrestling got you to react whether you loved it or hated it. You know,
to me, it's a very underrated form. I mean, you know, I know since I came out here and actually seen how the movie business works, not the adult business, I've seen that too, but the actual, I mean, you know, I did like, you know, I didn't come out here to be an actor and shit. But I had, you know, at the time I had a fairly decent look for it. I had a motorcycle. I was with this group called the Wild Ones when I first came in, and they booked like extra guys for motorcyclists or bouncers or bikers or whatever. And when you see, I remember doing the X-Files. I did a scene, you know, one.
Remember that? I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and like when you realize that, you know, they spent 18 hours to shoot like literally 1 minute of film, or, you know, 1 minute of the show, and you know, there's constant retakes. They rewrite the script, and fucking wrestling guys are out there shooting from the hip.
Yeah,
wrestling. You know, I would never had a good sense of memory anyway. I mean, I remember once wrestling Johnny Webb or something. We got in the corner. He's like, "What's next?" I'm like, "I don't know. You tell me. I forgot what the fuck's next." You know?
So great, man. So great. See, those are some good stories right there, man. But so Jake, so you're talking like you were about 17-ish when you went to that show.
The Billy Graham show? No, we couldn't drive yet, so I was probably about 15. It was like it was in '77, so I would have been like
Okay.
14 or 15. And then I kind of like I was into it, and then Graham lost the belt, and you start getting older. You're 17, 18. Other things like partying and girls come into your life,
yeah, of
and you're
course.
chasing that. You're more interested in that than wrestling. And then
yeah. I was gonna say when you like you said, you started later. You were a little older in your 30s at the time, and it was cool talking to you because it's like you didn't just get into wrestling because the world all of a sudden got into wrestling like in the 80s where it just kind of took off. Like you had a kind of like a legitimacy to you as far as your involvement in becoming a fan because you did it in an era where it wasn't so mainstream yet.
Oh, not at all. Yeah.
No. So that in itself always kind of stood out to me. I remember when we would talk and sharing stories about how we grew up and liking the business and just talking wrestling. It was like, oh yeah, this guy like really knows his stuff, man. Like he goes before like the world got into it.
Way. I mean, I was going to tell you, like, I watched it for a while, then I kind of drifted away from it, and then the defining moment for me, which is on YouTube too, and once we get done and I can figure out how to put the link on here, I'll probably do it on my computer, i.e., other than the phone. But what I did was, I was kind of like, going, man, like to me, like Backlund was boring. He had no. I wanted I'm a Rolling Stones fan too. I wanted the event. I wanted the glitz and the glamour that the 70s were, I mean, you had Elton John, you had the outlandish dress, you had everything was bigger than life in the 70s. It seems like we're going backwards in life. But I grew up in the 70s, basically. I mean, I graduated in 80, but I remember when Hulk Hogan made his debut. And I remember seeing him or his debut in WWF back in like probably, I'm guessing around 80, maybe. I mean, it's on YouTube. And I remember seeing him and going, whoa, this guy's a cheap Billy Graham knockoff, which he was,
Yeah.
He was doing the ear thing. He had the blonde thing. He was big. He wasn't as chiseled as Graham, and even Billy Graham, it's weird. I mean, I think about it now and I look at him and his face, even as he was probably in his 30s when I was watching him as a kid, and he had a more of a mature kind of chiseled face, like a timeless. He looks the same almost. But like Hulk Hogan, the thing is he came out as a heel, and I think I remember he had the big cape. It was all colored, and they were calling
Freddie Blassie.
Yeah, Blassie was his manager, and they were calling him the Incredible Hulk Hogan. And I think Marvel kind of maybe have said, "Hey, that's trademark."
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. And then Vince started calling him Hulk Hogan. But I went to see him wrestle as a main event, Bob Backlund. And I talked to my buddy down the street, Albert, who wasn't that into wrestling, and we went up, and it was probably like it was in '81. And like I said, I was already older for it, but I wanted to. This was it. This was like the proving thing. I'm thinking, there's no way in hell Bob Backlund can beat this guy. He's gigantic. He's 6'9", 6'10". And when Hogan lost to him, I said, I'm done. I can't watch it anymore.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't watch wrestling for years, for a few years. When I got out of high school, Atlantic City was just starting to take off, and I was a dice dealer at Caesars in Atlantic City from 82 to 85. And because I worked at Caesars,
what was your position? What was your position?
I was a dice dealer. I dealt craps.
Oh, no way, man! I never knew that. I love craps, dude. Yeah, my game.
Yeah, it was one of my. Yeah, it was like my first really well. I graduated in 80, and then we had the recession in 81. I was working in graphic arts, and I got laid off, and it took me 13 months to get. That's why I get pissed off when I hear about people talking about border crashers. I'm like, I was an American citizen. It took me 13 months. I was a 19-year-old kid to fill out. I had to fill out a 40-page personal history form. My mother had to give all my aunts and uncles' parents' names to the New Jersey Division of Gaming. I had to pay $400. I think it was like $400, and it took them 13 months to approve me to get a license so I can get a job. And then I had to lie and say I lived in New Jersey. So I knew people in Ventnor, and I would mail stuff to them because they would interview the mail guy.
Right. Yeah.
And
Crazy.
because they wanted to hire from local. But I ended up getting my license and I worked there. But getting back to the wrestling connection, because we worked at Caesars promoted all the big fights. I dealt dice to both Tommy Hearns and Marvin Hagler.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, because they would do the promo things and they would come to Atlantic City, but the fight was in Vegas at Caesars. But we had closed circuit TV in the dealer's lounge, which was basically a lounge for all the dealers. I mean, you got to figure back then, there's 200 dealers on a shift. So you had like a big cafeteria.
Yeah.
You had a couple TVs. And when there was a big fight, like people would come on their day off. Everybody worked there and hang out in the dealer's lounge to watch the stuff. But they had WrestleMania, the first one, which was what year? 83 or 84?
First WrestleMania was 85.
Okay, 85. So like that was my last year I worked there. But I remember watching the first WrestleMania on the circuit at work.
Wow, man, oh man.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, WrestleMania 4 and 5 were in Atlantic City.
Yeah, because I mean they did the thing, and then Trump bought, people were all anti-Trump. I'm like, he was, the politicians screwed up Atlantic City. I don't want to get into their whole thing, but basically Trump had the Trump Plaza, then he took over the convention center, he redid it. So he was trying to make Atlantic City a competitor for boxing too, to bring in all the boxing fights, and then he did the wrestling too, he self-promoted with them. But I wasn't really a big fan of wrestling, and then I started watching. I mean, at that time, I wasn't like, I would watch it now and then, but I didn't know what was going on. And then I started, now and then I would watch wrestling's Main Event because it was on Saturday nights.
Yeah, right. The NBC.
Yeah. Because I was already older. I'd go to my girlfriend's house and stuff, and we'd go down the basement. It was fixed up and stuff, and watch. It was like once a month. It was like the only Saturday I didn't go out. At that point in my life, because I was in my 20s. And you're partying and going out every weekend.
Yeah, you're right.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Continue. I wanted to.
So I would occasionally watch Saturday night's Main Event.
Okay.
And then. But that was about it.
Okay.
So I know you're going to lead me into how did I actually get into wrestling.
So let me ask you that. Now that you said that, when you were watching in the 70s, you knew the product. What was it like to you when you were like all of a sudden like, whoa, wait a minute, how did wrestling get this whole makeover and it's on NBC? It's this. Were you thinking a little bit of that from the days of watching, the local, and then you see NBC come around like, whoa.
To me, I guess it's kind of like when you grow up and you get a special sandwich at your neighborhood shop. Nothing you ever go in the world is ever going to compete with that, because that's the flavor you grew up with and that's what you associate. Right. I was the same way with wrestling, like WWF to me, I didn't realize until later on, wrestling, that McMahon owned it, or his dad owned it. He was just the announcer.
Yeah, right.
But the Grand Wizard always yelled at, and I love the Grand Wizard too. McMahon, he's always yelling at him.
He was awesome.
What I liked about their product was, and I guess maybe I'm just slow, because they build an angle. It took time back then. I mean, when Zbyszko turned on Bruno in the set, I mean, it was like.
So like when Zbyszko and Sammartino had their falling out, like it was, like you said, it was monumental. It meant so much.
Yeah. I mean, people were, I was still, like I said, younger then, and it just meant so much. And I thought it was real.
Yeah.
So,
but did you have?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Did you have like? I know, like you said, and I get it too. Like nothing beats the stuff that you originally got into, like the analogy with the sandwich shop. You said. But was there a part of you that was like, oh my gosh, this thing blew up? When did this happen? Like knowing how massive this is now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of seen it coming. I mean, it didn't surprise me because back then, it was the beginning of like I said, closed circuit was like the thing to do suddenly. I mean. I remember when they promoted the Ali Anuki thing in Japan. That was on closed circuit, and you had to go somewhere. You had to go to a special place and they had it on TV, you know, and you paid for that. And so, I mean, it was an evolution. I wasn't shocked by what, you know, that was the early 80s. So it was a cool time, you know, and
yeah.
you know, but I kind of like, you know, I kind of took, basically it became, and it became too cartoonish, you know, but
Yep,
it's just what wrestling is, you know.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
you know?
They weren't hiding it anymore. So let's fast forward a few years now, because when you came out to Cali, and then you heard about XPW. How did you first hear about it? How did you become involved? But correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm remembering our conversations back in the day. You were involved with some stuff back east with Philly with ECW, were you a little bit?
I trained at ECW.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
I'll short. I know, because I like to talk, but I'll tell you how I got into it. Simple as that. So to make a long story short, years later, I ended up getting a job. I think like around '89. I ended up working for my township, and I was a trash man. And it's a union job, so you get paid great, you get great sick time, you get great benefits, but you're pitching trash. You're on the truck. They still do it to this. That you know, that's how they do it back there. The streets are more narrow. You got to pull the cans all around the trucks. I'm sure you've seen that viral video, the guy beating the mailbox. That's how it is. Extra trash cans. But you know, outside of Philadelphia, you know, you got the winners, and I'm not a big fan of winter.
Right.
And I worked there for 8 years, and I bought a house. And I to make a long story short, I came home one day from work, and I was, you know, I would make dinner. I'd be home by 5 o'clock. I'd either make dinner or order pizza or something. The girl that I was seeing at the time was a go-go dancer, so she would come over sometimes. She worked like 11 to 7. She worked like the day shift. Okay. So to make a long story short, I probably ordered lunch, but I remember I would watch cable, and on a sports channel, I stumbled across this wrestling program, and I'm like, whoa. It's pretty cool. It's like low budget. It looks like they're doing it in a basement somewhere. Yeah. Kind of reminded me of I always kind of dug the wrestling scene in Escape from New York with Ox Baker.
Yeah. Ox Baker, right.
I tried telling that to Rob, like, we need to bring a ring with the torches on each corner. I always thought that was so cool, you know?
Yeah.
So I stumbled across it and I started watching it. So one day my girlfriend comes home and she's like, "What are you watching?" And I said, "Oh, it's this wrestling thing." I go, "It's from Philly too, you know?" And she's like, "Really?" She goes, "One of the girls I work with, her husband's a wrestler." And I go, "Really?" I go, "What's his name?" She goes, "I don't know." She goes, I don't know. She goes, "I know him as Hack, you know?" So we're sitting there eating pizza, and all of a sudden she goes, "Oh, there he is on TV." And I go, "Oh, that's the Sandman." And she's like, "Yeah, that's Jimmy." And she goes, I know him. I know his wife and stuff. So go ahead. I know you got a question.
No, and then so no. So how did you get to ECW now?
So what happened was I was like, really? So when I worked on a trash truck, I used to have I always had longer hair. I used to have the earrings. They used to call me Rock, like the rock star, because I always wear I didn't know I was so popular with the ladies. Now they're on Facebook. That all the girls that like from high school were like, "Oh, everyone knew you." Because I would wear my little cutoff shorts and my boots and my glasses. You know, I never wore in the summer I never had a shirt on. I was out there throwing trash all day. You know. So what happened was, and then wrestling it started becoming popular again, and it was like the cool thing to do. So the guys at work are like, "I could see you doing that. I could see you doing that." And I said, "Nah, fuck that shit." You know.
How tall are you, Jake?
I'm a legit 6'4.5".
Oh man, I always thought you were taller than that, dude.
No, they booked.
I mean, I'm 6'3", but man, I always thought, well, okay, 6'4.5".
You got bad posture.
Yeah, you know what? Dude,
you're round shouldered.
No, you're right. I always my brother's got it too. Like I don't know what it is, but yeah, always remind
up straight.
Yeah, you're right. But no,
but you proud of who you are. Be tall.
That's right. Yeah, you got that arch the back, but well, you carried yourself. Yeah, you're right. You did have good posture. You were always stood up. No, now that I think about it, but so now you find out about it through Sandman. The girl.
She gets me the phone number. Phone number, and I so the guys at work are like, "I can see you doing this and all," and I'm kind of like, so I'm thinking, that looks like fun. I'm still not equating that there's a lot of pain involved in this stuff. You know, to me, it looks like fun. You know, so she gets me the phone number, and I call him up, and he's like, "Oh, you know, we got a school in Philly that we're training," and you know, needless to find out, that was just something to grab money out of your pocket. But the thing is I paid the fee, and I started going to school at ECW, and it was at the arena, you know, ECW arena. And what they would do is they would set the ring back up. They would do a show, and they had a back room area, and they would set the ring up, and they trained you there. And my Jersey to try out, you know, to see if I wanted to do it, but it was a further drive. You got to go over the bridge, and you know, Philly was like a half an hour as opposed to 45 minutes to 50 minutes. And you got to consider that. You know, you're going over the bridge, you could be stuck there for an hour on a bridge. So I ended up joining, you know, ECW. Plus, I figured, you know, they already got a promotion. It's got a show going on. You know, I knew, you know, I knew nothing about dirt sheets. I never gave it that much thought. I knew nothing about it. So I ended up joining. You know, I paid a thing, and JT Smith was my first teacher. Do you remember JT Smith?
Yeah.
What a great guy. Super guy, humble, great wrestler, great athlete. You know, he was doing at the time, and let's be honest, times are changing now. But one of his gimmick, you know, he's a black guy, so his gimmick, they made him the full-blooded Italian, the FBI.
Right.
Black guy in Philly coming out calling himself Italian. You know, it's going to give you heat. You know what I mean? You know, that's the thing about wrestling. No one cares. Everyone has fun with it. No one takes it. You shouldn't take it that seriously.
It's entertainment. It's entertainment, man.
Yeah. So fortunately for me, I go to the school. I kind of had a cool look for it. There was a couple other students there. And then what happened was they would never get the ring set up in time for us. So we would show up for school and the ring wasn't back. So they had, you remember 911 that wrestled for ECW? His name was Al. He was a big guy, like 6'7", 350 pounds.
Right.
He built a fucking wooden ring. Our training ring was wood.
Wow.
With no spring. You know, it was put together, and there was like 6x6s for the poles in the corner, and we had cables. There was no ropes. They had foam over them, but they were cables, you know, and just like they are now, but like there was no give. It was a wooden frame.
Wow.
You know? Yeah, and I was working 2 nights a week at this place called the Show and Tell, which might still be in Philadelphia. It was an all-new strip joint, which back then, like back in Philly, how it works is like you could have topless bars that serve alcohol and stuff, but the all-new places you can bring your own beer or wine. So they had a big room, and the place was huge. It had like a videotape library. They had a theater in there. They had like they sold the sex toys that I started selling to guys at work, you know, for extra money, you know, because I would tell them, and they're like, God, I wish my wife would do that. I'm like, I go, we'll buy her one, you know. He's like, am I going to kill your little fans on this story?
No, not at all, man. No.
Okay. So I'd be like, well, buy him one. And I remember one of the guys at work, and he's like, well, I go, I'll pick one up for you next time I'm there. And he's like, because he wanted to buy a vibrator for his old lady. And I said, what color you want? And he's like, really? I go, yeah. They come in all kind of colors, neon colors and stuff. So make a long story short, I'm pitching trash all day. I'm going to wrestling school 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm working Friday and Saturday nights at this strip joint to make extra money. And I was so beat the fuck up. I was sore from my head to my toes. And I'm going, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, I'm 35 years old. Like, why am I even doing this? But at least I wasn't beat up like some guys that are wrestlers are already beat up by 35 from the business, you know?
Very true. So were you trying to get on the roster at that point?
Well, what happened was I went to the shows, and like I said, my girlfriend at the time was attractive. She was a dancer. We had a cool look to us. I used to dye my hair black. She had black hair. And we went to a couple of ECW shows, and, you know, I got in behind, and I was green. I didn't know anything about, we learned a little bit about locker room etiquette at school, but I used to tell this to D, you know, later on. I was like, you got to educate these guys that, like, when they walk into a locker, like back east, it's different. It's just different. When you walk into a locker room, no matter what show you're doing, you walk up and say hello to everybody, and you shake their hand.
Yeah.
You know, you may run into guys with a little bit of attitude, but here's my take was like, you're wrestling in an armory, dude, and there's 50 people out there. You know, I could see you having an ego if you're selling out Madison Square Garden, but when you're putting 50 people in an armory, you know, there's no ego involved here, you know?
Yeah.
And that's it's there's more of that protocol to it back east, at least
Right,
in my opinion.
right. There always was. You're right. Back east, a different mentality.
So what happened was, you were asking me how about ECW. So what happened was, you know, I was, you know, training roughly about a year, and then JT couldn't do it for a while. He got like chair shotted and his neck was all swelled out. So then Anthony from the Pitbulls took over for a while, you know, and he was a great guy, but he had his issues, you know, he had some things going on and personal issues in his life. And he didn't show up now and then and stuff. So to make a long story short, eventually, because I went to the backstage shows, I mean, I remember, and I'll tell you this, I mean, I remember when Austin was there. This is before the Stone Cold thing. He came into ECW for a while?
Yeah.
Steve Austin, I stood next to him all night. All he did was sit there with a bowl of chewing tobacco watching the monitor. He would talk to anybody. Not because he was egotistical. I think it was just that he probably really Whipwreck, if you remember.
Yeah, Mikey Whipwreck, yeah.
Yeah, and he did the Whipper Wrecker, which ended up being the Stunner, you know. But I met Brian Lee. Brian Lee was there, and he was like the big biker guy.
Yeah,
and I kind of befriended him, and of course I knew the Sandman. I trained with him a couple times. I knew him, so like I didn't know locker room etiquette. So what I was doing was, you know, I'm back in the back drinking with the Sandman. He would have 2 cases of Bud on ice in a cooler.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting back there, my girlfriend's there, we're drinking beer. I didn't, you know, no one told me, like, hey, you might not want to do that. You're new, you're trying to, you know, I didn't know, you know, I thought I'm being sociable, right? But anyway, Brian met me and he had said, hey, you know, maybe I could talk to Paul, you know, we could tag team. I know you're new and you're green.
Yeah.
Kind of cover for you a little bit until you start to learn. But they didn't let him do it. You know, I don't think they were interested, which I get it, you know.
Right.
So then what happened was, you know, a couple of people told me, they said, dude, what you need to do is go and like try to hit some of the local smaller shows that are around.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to gain experience, because I didn't have any live matches. So there was this one guy starting this little league called the Grand Wrestling Alliance, GWA. And I wrestled there. Like the first show, they put me up like against their heavyweight guy. And I'm like, and then the promoters like, next time you wrestle, you're going to go over and win the belt. I go, dude, like, number one, I don't really know what I'm doing yet. I go, yeah, I got a good look for it. And I would bring my girlfriend out with me. She had a gimmick too, you know, and we looked cool. And, but, you know, it was new, you know, so, and we wrestled. I remember I wrestled a show at the place called the Blue Horizon, I think, where they used to do boxing on, and it's in North Philadelphia. It's north of, you know, it's in a pretty rough neighborhood, but you know, back in the 30s or 40s, I guess they used it for boxing. So it had like a double tiered system with a full balcony all around it on both sides. And I come out and I'm wrestling this guy, Ron Starr, who's probably about like 5'6", you know, tall, 5'6" round. And he's like 300 pounds, and he goes into the thing, and my finisher is the power bomb. So I pick him up and I power bomb him, and I bust the ring. All you hear is crack, and like 3 2x12 snap, and he goes into the ring. He's like got a hole in the ring, and I'm like, holy shit! It's like, wow. I go to the place erupts. The place erupts. I go to pin him, and I'm like, are you okay? You know, he's like, yeah, you know. So when we came in the back, the place was just, you know, everybody in the locker room was just laughing and loving it because the fans just, you know, it was crazy, you know.
Yeah.
We were like the second or third match on the card. They had to wrestle the rest of the show with a broken ring.
Jeez, wow, man. So what year where are we at now? We're at like what, 96, 97, 98?
You're probably talking there around 94. I came out here in 98.
Okay, so yeah. What was your reason for coming out to Cali? Just to change it up? The weather.
Okay. I just got tired of winters.
Yep. I hear you.
Yeah, I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I worked outside. I did construction. I did, I
Yeah.
worked for the township. I just got tired of it.
And you're right, and you ride, man. So it's like,
Yeah.
it couldn't be more perfect. So where were you living when you moved out here, Jake? And how did you find out about XPW?
I was living at the time with my girlfriend, the same one that, we were together for a while. I had a house, she had a house, and then she ended up wanting to open up this business. So I found this old gay bar in Philadelphia, which is in Washington Square West. It was 4 stories high, 13 feet wide by 13 foot ceilings, but 80 feet long, but 4 stories.
Wow.
And they were filming the movie The Sixth Sense at the time when we lived there, because I remember they'd block off the street. And that area is like super cool though. It's like they call it the neighborhood in Philly, but it's really like our back alley was like cobblestone with gas lamps, because that's how they still are. Those streets still exist.
Yeah, right.
And they're expensive, and so she ended up buying it. She got a deal on it, and then I was doing work on it. And I think, just we were together about 5 years in. I think things just kind of got old. So we were having the talk, the talk you ever have where it's like, we need some space.
Yep.
I was like, you're right. I said, I'm moving to California. And she's like, moving to California? She's like, what are you going to do out there? So I'm joking around. I'm like, I don't know. Get in the porno business. And she's laughing, I just said it.
Yeah.
So I ended up driving out here, I loaded up my truck and head to Beverly. So I sold my bike that I had at the time, and I put some stuff in a trailer, and I moved out here, and I ended up, my buddy was laid off from work, and he was living with his girlfriend. I'm like, Tim, I go, you want to drive out with me? I figured, what the hell? I'm going to go get rooms each night. I'm not in a big hurry. I go, I'll just get a double, I'll get 2 beds instead of the one big one, just some, just a company for the drive, So he ends up driving out with me, and I stop each night. So it takes me like 5 days to get here. And I ended up staying. I didn't know where to go, So I was a fan of Pumping Iron and Arnold Schwarzenegger. For Santa Monica, I'll check out Santa Monica.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I ended up staying at the Travel Lodge right on Ocean, and I think that's Ocean, and you know where the pier is?
Yeah, Ocean Park.
Ocean and whatever the cross street was, there was another
exactly. Colorado.
Yeah, right. There was a little Travel Lodge motel right there.
Exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I pull in there, and a buddy of I pull in there and I stay a couple days, and I didn't know where to go. I didn't know anybody out here. Right. So I'm talking to a friend of mine from back east named Tom Robinson, and he's actually a guy you should talk to, because he's got some great stories. He actually used to do, I think, a simulcast or something with Mark Maron. Am I right on that name?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He introduced me to like Dennis Carluzzo, who used to run the NWA.
Right.
And I could tell you a story about those guys. That's a book right there. But Tommy, I ended up calling him, and he said, hey, he goes, he knew wrestling. He knew dirt sheets and all. I was never into any of that. I was never into that. But I talked to him, and he said to me, he goes, there's this porno guy, and he runs a wrestling company, and they wrestle at the Reseda Country Club. And my first thought was, man, these California people are fucked up. I'm like, country club? I'm thinking like Bushwood, like golf and wrestling.
Country club, yeah.
That's what it was called.
Right.
So somehow he gets me the number, and I dial a number, and I hear, hello, Xtreme. Needless to find out, it's Jimmy. He was the phone guy. Remember, he was the front desk guy. Yep. So I hear, hello, Xtreme. And I go, hey, how you doing? I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm talking. And I think he puts Kevin on the phone. And Kevin's like, oh, who is this? Right. So I was talking a little bit. And he goes, I said, hey, I heard you guys are wrestling and stuff. And he's like, he goes, like, what do you look like? I said, I look like a 6'4" Kevin Nash. And he goes, come on over, So, and going back to, I didn't mention it, but this memory's coming back to me. Like, even when I was a trash man, the little kids would think they would say, hey, Big Daddy Cool, because he was already evil then, so I would sign autographs for the kids.
Oh, dude, that's great, man.
I used to tell them I wasn't, but my girlfriend's like, just tell them you are. It makes their day. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would be like, literally on the trash truck signing autographs for kids in the neighborhood. So I come out here and I drive over. They give me the address, and I come in. And this is the honest to God's true story. This is a true story. So I come in and Jimmy's sitting behind the desk, he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "All right," and we're kind of looking around, and I look to the left, and remember that little couch they had in the front office?
Yep, right.
There was like this broad sitting there. She was probably about like 35, blonde hair, a little bit past her prime, but she's sitting on the couch. And then like Kevin comes out, and then I see like this freakazoid walk by with like blonde and purple and green hair with these giant boots on, and he kind of like looks at me and goes away. I later find out that was Rob,
Right.
And then Tommy happened to walk in. And let's face it, I grew up, I seen a couple of adult movies, so I seen him,
Yeah.
So he kind of walked in, and I was just talking to them, and I think Tommy came back out, and I started saying, because I worked for like about 6 months in local cable TV. My buddy was like a director. They would do like ball games and this TV show they did, and he taught me how to operate the camera.
Right.
So Tommy's talking to this chick, and he's like, "Hey, listen, we're gonna have to probably be a little longer because the cameraman called in sick, and so I kind of volunteered. I'm like, hey, I shot a little camera, set the ball game, different content. So Tommy's talking to me. He says, listen, he goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, I'll teach you how to do the lighting. I'll do the camera work. I'm like, okay. So, I'm here like a week and a half, and I'm shooting my first porno, So the girl's on the couch. I always tell this story. This is the honest guy. So the girl's on the couch, and she was like some dancer from Florida, and these girls would come out and do a couple movies so they could be a feature girl.
Right.
So she jumped. So I remember we jump into this Range Rover. It was John Blatt's. I didn't know that at the time, but we run into this Range Rover. So I'm driving. Tommy goes, "You drive. I'll tell you where to go." And he sits in the passenger side. The girl gets in the back. So we pull out off the Leadwell, make a left on the Woodley, and I'm driving up. Tommy's like, "Go up from here to Roscoe," and you make a left. So I'm just kind of trying to cool, like I've been here forever. The girl's in the back. Tommy's talking to her, and he's like, I heard, he goes, "How'd it go yesterday?" And the chick's like, "Listen, I really, she goes, it was, he goes, yeah, he goes, I heard you were kind of, drinking on the set." He goes, you can't do that. This is a business and it's professional.
Right.
And you can't be getting drunk. And the girl goes, "Well, can I tell you something honestly?" And he goes, "Yeah, go ahead." And she goes, "I was a little nervous, but I didn't expect to work with 12 guys my first time."
Oh, geez.
I almost drove off the road. I was like, whoa.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so that was kind of
first time, man.
that was kind of my, my awakening to what's going to be going on over here,
And this was all after the first show, you said, right?
Yeah, it was because I didn't do the first thing I did for them was the second show at the receiver company,
Yeah.
And like I was telling you, like when I got to know Brian back east, he what happened to me too was and this is what we were talking about with egos and guys with egos. I did a show for NWA, and it was at like some Jersey armory or something. So I walk in the dressing room. I got my girlfriend with me, and I walk in, and people are looking at me, like I said, she was hot. We had a cool look, but we walk in, and this guy, Buddy Landell, you remember Nature Boy, Buddy Landell?
Yeah, Buddy Landell, Nature Boy.
He looks at me, and he's in front of everybody in the thing. He goes, "Bro," he goes, "you got a great look. You look just like Kevin Nash." He goes, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do for you." And he pulls out his wallet, and he gets a pen, and he goes, "This is Jim Cornette's number at WWF. You call him. And this is Terry Taylor's number at WCW. You call him and tell him I told you to call." And he gives me their number. Wow. So 90% of the other guys in the room hate me now because they're trying to get a chance, and like I didn't. I was like, okay, cool. And he goes, "Do you know anybody else in the WWF locker room?" And I go, "Well, I know Brian Lee because he had just got in with the chain. He was doing the biker gimmick with his cousins." the Harris brothers.
Yeah.
And, so he goes, just show up early. He goes, you look like one of the boys. He goes, just show up early. So I show up with my girlfriend. We drive I drive over to the Spectrum because Raw was happening, but it was during the day. It was like a
right pre-tape.
Yeah, they were doing it like in the afternoon.
Right.
So I drive over and I just pull up to the thing and I'm like, I'm with the show, and the guy's like, who are you? So I just signed Jake Lawless to the register, and I pull up, and then the security walks me down the dressing room, and I'm literally walking through the dressing room, and like Vader's there, like everybody, they're all getting dressed and stuff. So Gurria kind of looks at me and he goes, can I help you? And I said, yeah, it's Brian Lee. And he goes, yeah, but he goes, do you mind waiting out in the hallway? And I go, no, not at all. So me and my girlfriend wait out in the hallway. And then he came out, and like, here's what I'm going to talk about with egos. He introduced me to everybody. Everybody came up. I'm sitting backstage at Raw. Taker comes up, says hello. Shawn Michaels. Kane. I'm bullshit with Kane. Back then, he still had to wear his mask.
Yeah. Right.
The Rock was just new. He was still rocking my Via. But he was just starting to get in that Nation of Domination thing. But everybody was cool as shit. Everybody was cool. So, and I'm doing some of these local shows, and these guys are acting like they're giant stars. And I'm like,
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. Yeah. That's a good point right there. I mean, I've kind of run across that too, where it's like we're all like, this is one of the reasons I like doing this show. For example, XPW, whatever the stigma is and all this, now we're just seeing, like, we're just regular guys that was interested in wrestling and wanted to make it and have fun and work in the business. And then all this stuff that goes along with it. It's like, we're all just normal guys. And isn't that funny though? You go into WWE, the guys that made it, they act more like normal guys than the guys that are just trying to be a star and I should be famous and all this stuff.
We went to a couple of shows and we hung out and we were leaving it. And it was me, Brian Lee, my girlfriend, and Steve Austin. So we come up the back ramp, and there was local wrestling fans there, and they were yelling Lawless down to us. And Stone Cold turns to Brian Lee and he goes, what the fuck they saying? And he goes, they're yelling for him. And Austin goes, don't acknowledge them. Just don't acknowledge them.
Yeah.
I was like, it was funny. And then it was funny because they would all stay at this hotel in this town called Tinicum. They don't stay like in the Philadelphia airport is not really actually in Philly. It's right outside of it. It's a little town called Tinicum. And they all stay at the smaller hotels out there so they can get their flight. And there's been a strip bar in this town for 30 years, but it doesn't say what it is. But everyone knows it's infamous. It's still there, Wow. So I knew the guy that owned it, and I knew his sons and all. So I said to him, hey, the WWF guys are up the street. I said, do you mind if I invite a few back? And he goes, no, tell them, right? So I go back to the hotel, and like Cactus Jack was there, but he had his wife with him, and his kids were little at the time.
Okay.
And so I go to the Harris guys. I go, there's a strip joint right down the street if you guys want to go get a beer. And they're like, no, there ain't. I go, yeah, there is. I'm from here. And they're like, we've been coming here 2 years. There's no strip joint. I go, no. I go, the place with the camels painted on the side of it? And they're like, yeah. I go, that's a strip joint. They're like, get the fuck out. So I walk in with them. I walk in with those two guys and Brian Lee and my girl. And like, dude, the people parted like the Red Sea because those guys are big. Like the Harris guys, they're like 6'8". At the time, they were like 320. They got arms like 25 inch. I mean, they're big, scary looking guys. Yeah. I looked at like Brian, and we walked in, and people. But then once people recognized them, you couldn't buy a drink. They were just sending us.
Oh, wow.
Everybody in the bar was just like sending beers over, and so it was fun.
So what happened with that with you as far as like trying to get in there? Buddy Landale sending you over there. The guys seemed to welcome you pretty well. And what happened? How come nothing transpired with you and WWE?
Well, I'll tell you. I called both places. I actually sent. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I had a really cool. I told you I did a little camera work and production. Yeah, and I made like a little promo tape. Yeah, and my promo tape, I had like a little storyline. It was only 3 minutes, interspersed with some cuts because when you're doing these independents, especially back then, people didn't have cameras and GoPros on their phones or anything. Everything was VHS tape. If you were lucky, you got one angle,
Yeah.
And so I put together a tape and I called both of them. And I remember I was home one time and I answered the phone and the guy's like, this is Terry Taylor at WCW. I'm like, you're full of shit. Like, I thought it was one of my buddies messing with me, And they're like, oh, we got your tape. And that was when they were just starting, or they had the power plant starting to take off and go. And then Jim Cornette, he had called, and they were just kind of like, hey, keep doing, you got a good thing and stuff like that. Keep basically establish yourself a little bit more in the indies, which honestly, Chris, to me, like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of travel. You know what I mean? I'm not that guy that wants to sit in the fucking airport. I'm just not.
I could see that now that you mentioned it.
I did wrestling locally for fun. I wanted to try it when I was a kid in the 70s. I think there's a guy who wrote a book. His name was George Plimpton. His daughter actually was. Do you know who George Plimpton was?
Yeah, I remember the name.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Paper Tiger, and it was about him joining the Detroit Lions. He was a journalist, and he went through the process. And then I think he got a couple TV series. He also did I'm going back in the 70s. He had a
it's coming.
I was always intrigued by that. Hey, if you want to try something, try it. Go for it. And I think I was more enamored with that the guys at work, they used to they're like, oh, nothing's going. They would break my balls, and then what happened was I started doing I did a benefit show for a crippled kid, and I got a picture in the paper.
So you did a benefit show for a handicapped child.
Yeah, there was a young kid that was a high school wrestler, and he was training, and they brought in a former alumni that was a wrestler, Greco-Roman high school style wrestling.
Right.
He broke the kid's neck.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and the kid was a paraplegic, so I ended up doing a benefit for him. Sandman did it. He was on the show too. So I told everybody locally, but what happened was, I had a nice write up, and then I got on this show called Philly After Midnight. They called me on as a guest because, obviously I like to talk, and they called me on as a guest, and it was broadcast on after the Tonight Show locally in Philly. So I did it once, and they called me 3 or 4 other times to be just like a guest, and then I remember they called me on to talk about the Owen Hart incident. After that happened. So that, that's that time frame.
Okay.
So suddenly now people are seeing me, and now all my friends that were bagging on me are kind of getting behind it, and it was cool,
Yeah.
I did a local commercial for a furniture store, and so people would see this shit, and I was becoming this big local star, I guess you could say.
That's cool, man. So when you got into all right, so you were there, and then I like to say that you were there from the beginning though, because it really felt like you were. But you were there for the second show, XPW. But you also that story you just mentioned, driving around the city with Tom, and I felt like they took a liking to you, Rob, and all that. So now you're working also at the Xtreme office.
Correct.
Yeah, you're working.
Yeah, I just talked to them and I said, listen, man, because they were like, oh, you should come around more, blah, blah. I said, dude, I need a job, straight up, and I'll tell you what, people have different varying views, but when I asked, I just said, hey, listen, I need to work, and I need benefits, and they gave me both.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got nothing, and I was fortunate because I did a little bit of everything there. If you remember, I did shipping, I shot. I used to go with Tommy, and when we do the shows out in Vegas, I'd help set up the booths, and I would bodyguard for the girls. Not that anybody ever tried to kill them, but I'd walk around with them, and it was fun, dude. I met everybody. I met a lot of people in the business, just through them, just going through the shows and stuff like that. And I think some of the guys were a little, I wouldn't say they were jealous of it. I mean, Webb said that once. He just said, well, not everybody gets to go all the things and stuff. And I'm like, I wasn't asking any special favors. I felt it was just the right thing to do. I mean, I remember one of the first times going to promote the show and promote one of the shows. And, Rob's like, here's $200. Go pick Christy up at her house. and you're going to go to this bar. It was somewhere up in Ventura. It was like a nice restaurant too. And he goes, you're going to meet, Jasmine's going to meet you up there too. And, go promote the show and hand out some tickets and buy some drinks. So I'm like, okay, you're giving me money to go drinking. And I get to go pick up Christy and go pick her up. And which was weird because I went to her house and her husband was like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, okay, this is a little strange, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to expose too much of the story, but the thing was, it was just cool because, we went out and we promoted the show, and Jasmine showed up, Jasmine St. Clair, and she showed up, and we're sitting there getting pie-eyed at this bar, and I'm getting paid to do it and have fun. But I said to Rob, I'm like, it really wasn't our crowd. It was kind of like an upscale restaurant,
Wow.
And then I remember I went down on the boardwalk in Venice with a couple of girls they gave money to, handing out flyers and stuff like that for the show. I mean, right. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. And overall, how was that experience? Just working. I mean, are there any because that office, like we were talking at the beginning of the show, this whole thing was a circus, man. Not only the wrestling, but then you got the Xtreme office, which day to day, man, it's just do you have any there's a ton of stories that I'm sure.
No regrets. I can tell you a ton of stories. I don't know if they're
if there's anything you want to share, yeah, please. And no regrets either, because I talked to I forget who I was talking to, Chris Hamrick for Phil actually, and it was I remember thinking to myself at the time, being around, I didn't work in the office, but I was there a lot. You worked there, but I remember thinking after really getting to be a part and experience wow, this is the adult film industry. This is how it works. And then seeing how so much criticism came our way or Rob's way for all this stuff, the adult film entertainment. And I remember as a young guy, I remember watching that, but then realizing, my God, this whole world is full of hypocrites, because porn is the number one thing worldwide on the internet.
Movies.
Everybody's saying how bad this is, but you guys are watching this. Everybody, look, no one watches it, right? But it's the number one thing in the world on the internet.
It's like wrestling.
Yeah, right. No one watches it, right? But so I just remember getting an early education where you know what? These people are here, they're professionals, they're doing their job, they're providing a service that people want. And there's so much heat backlash on them from, again, the public who is hypocritically watching this. It's like a chicken hawk. I'm a chicken when it's time to serve in the military, but now that I'm older, I'm a hawk and I want to go in there and bomb everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's at that mentality. And I remember really having a little bit of respect for the people that just say what you want about it, but there was no hypocrisy there. It's this is what we do. This is who we are.
Kris, let me tell you something. As strange as it may be, because it was a circus, but everyone was fairly fucking cool there. When I worked at other places afterwards, and if someone who was dating, the thing about in that business, if someone hooks up for a night, the next day it was oh, that was fun, and that was about the end of it. Every other business I've been to, all they do is gossip about who's dating who's stealing somebody's, and I'm going, damn, it was refreshing because no one really even cared about it. It was just okay, wow, that was fun, and I mean, but there was just, I'll tell you, just a couple. I have a weird sense of humor. So do you remember the makeup guy Eddie that used to come in?
I do, yeah, vaguely remember.
Yeah, he was a tall guy, black guy. I used to love Eddie, but he would come because I got a weird sense of humor. So he'd come in and he'd have his hair dreadlocks, extensions in, and his blue eye contacts, and he was flamboyant, and he would come in, have all the rings on and stuff. He'd be like, "Oh, Jake," and I always would, but he would wear this cologne that was I don't know what the hell it was. I don't know if he got it at the gas station or whatever the hell he got it at, but it was nauseating. And I remember Damien Steele, it's Jesus Christ, that shit's making me, it would not, literally it would nauseate me.
Wow.
And so he would come in and I'm like, God, Eddie, you really smell good today. And he's like, you think so? And I'm like, yeah. And Tim would be like, why the fuck you telling him that? Why he's gonna I remember him. I remember coming out one day, and I almost threw up because I come out and he's sitting next to Jimmy, and they're both eating like pancakes at the front desk next to each other, eating pancakes, and the smell of the pancakes and the smell of the cologne.
Oh, jeez, dude.
And then Eddie started doing. Rob let him produce when they started their mail line. The man's
okay,
line.
Right.
So one day I go into the men's room. I go into the men's room. I open the door. Wow, and Eddie's like, "Jay, hold on," and there's like one guy on his knees and the other guy standing there. Let's just say that they're shooting a scene. And he's like, "Oh, you hit him in the head with the door." And I'm like, "Lock the fucking door, dude!" Like, I don't expect, like it's the men's room. Have a little production value going on.
You guys took men's room a little way too literally here on many levels, right?
And then there was a while there, like I remember Derek that used to do the shipping went on to do some camera work. So they're like, "Hey, you want to do?" I said, "Yeah, what the fuck? I don't care. Learn something new. I don't care. I'm about keeping busy." So I was doing the shipping, and between the office where Jimmy sat, because Homeless Jimmy was, I'm going to out him for this. Homeless Jimmy was he was the front desk guy at Xtreme. Right. That's how organized it was, So he was sitting there, and they had like a little window that slid, and you could shut it. You can open it up and into the warehouse and shut it if you want. So he was sitting there, and do you remember that kid Fester that worked there?
Oh, Mark Radledge. Hello, how are you?
Yeah. He had a girlfriend. Her name was Corinne.
Oh, Corinne?
She would call for him, and sometimes I would talk to her, and he would get all jealous, and like I was just being nice, I didn't have an interest in her, but he would get all pissed off. So one day he was in the office area next to Jimmy, and he said something to me. I forget what the hell it was, and I said something to him, and he shut the door, like the little glass, the sliding door, and he sat back down next to Jimmy, and I think I had like some fucking nasty ass burrito off the lunch truck earlier, and I had to fart like I had to fart like you wouldn't believe, right? So I walk in, I walk around the thing, and I go into the office. Now Jimmy's sitting there, and Mark's sitting like 2 feet from him, and he's looking like to the left, and I come around the thing to the right, and I pull my pants down, and I go, "Hey, Mark," and he turns. Jimmy's gonna laugh when he sees it. He turns, and I think his face is like 3 inches from my butthole, and I hold my feet open, and I go, "Brrr!" And his hair fluttered in the wind. Jimmy started laughing so hard. That dude, he turned every sheet of red. He wouldn't do nothing to me, right? Because he's like, "You're an asshole,"
You are an asshole.
Yeah, he's like, he had that. He was from Ronkonkoma, New York. I still remember that.
Yeah,
he had that accent,
Oh my gosh, dude. That was just another day over there, man. That was just the best, man. It really was a great time, dude.
Jimmy used to kill me because every day he'd be at the lunch truck, like twice a day, and he'd buy like 2 giant Red Bulls. And I'm like, "Dude, you sit on your ass all day. Like, why do you need 2 giant Red Bulls?" Every day he was out there.
That's funny, man. So when you were like I said at the beginning of the show, Jake, you got along with everybody, and if you were cool, they'd get along with you. If they were cool, they'd get along with you because you had an attitude. Like if someone didn't like you, there's probably something wrong with that person, because you just. But my question is like, okay, so you were in there, and then they put you in the group, the hierarchy with Damian Steele. He was the first champion of the company. But then later on, you go into the Rob Black Army, right? Because Damian Steele he ended up going to UPW, to train WWE hopeful contract and all that. What was that experience like? Because I want to get later on your thoughts about just Rob Black in general and the office. But first off, who did you really bond? Who were? I mean, I know, but who did you like? Who did you bond with in the back? Who were your boys?
Like for the most part, Chris, I was cool with everybody. I never had any issues with Rob and Tommy. They were good to me, honestly, when I came in. And you know what? To be honest with you, my first Christmas here, when I first moved out here, Pat Hernandez was like, "Hey, man, like, why don't you come to my parents' house for like Thanksgiving?" Dude, that meant the world to me because I had nowhere to go, and like just hanging there and being like one of the family. Here's this like tall gringo from Philadelphia, and just his family were opening. It was super cool.
Oh yeah,
and then by Christmas, I ended up going with Lizzie, Rob, and Tommy to Lizzie's grandparents' house for Christmas in like Orange County. We all drove down together. I helped when Rob and Tommy got their house. I helped them move in over there. I remember picking up 3 steamer trunks, 3 giant steamer trunks for Tommy because I had a pickup truck. I picked up 3 giant steamer trunks.
Blue Chevy.
Yeah, a blue Chevy, right?
Actually, your truck is the one that crashed into homeless Jimmy when Webb and Jessica were driving, and you see that, and Jimmy took a hit on the legs from that, but that was your truck in that moment.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we were there all the time. Webb was the editor, so he was always there. Jimmy was always there. Kevin was always there. I got nothing bad to say about those guys, man. I mean, like as far as like, I mean, not the workers, but like Robinson. I know some guys, they have their differences of opinions, and I get it, But I was Rob's dad. I always got along with because his dad would come in now and then, and I kind of agreed with his dad. I think Rob, may not have liked. I wasn't interested. To be honest with you, Chris, I wasn't really interested in like being a wrestler at that point. I enjoyed doing it and the thing, but I didn't have any, aspirations to take it any further than that. And honestly, as a 35-year-old guy, I was looking at it and going, here's a 26-year-old guy running a pretty profitable and enterprising adult business. The last thing I would be interested in doing is wrestling, because coming from back east, all these guys that try to be promoters, I mean, listen, I think it's cool as shit, but the reality is there's the reason Vince is because he's a 3rd generation. He knows the business and they got the money, And I remember Rob and his dad having a riff one time because his dad was like, get rid of the fucking wrestling. But I mean,
right.
Only Rob knows how much money he put into that. And, I give him credit. He was passionate about it, dude.
Yeah.
He owned it. He I mean, at least he went for it. And I think coming from the East Coast, I got his shtick. I understood who the real guy was and who Rob Black was, and I kind of was amused by it to a certain degree.
Yeah. He was a very, very entertaining guy. And
he did stuff in the adult business. I remember when he hired like a couple actors to be cops, and they had a cop car, and he went over to AVN and trashed the office or something, and something like that. And then the cops came and arrested him. The fake cops came in and arrested him.
Right.
He made it interesting.
Yeah.
He made it interesting, and I got it, and I got what he was doing. And
I think you were there one night. We all went to the Teppan place, that hibachi thing that he liked a lot, Rob.
Like Musashi.
Yeah. So we were all there. I think it was you, myself, Kevin, Rob, Tom, like a bunch of us. And I want to say like Dick Dudley or Sabu was there too. But I remember we all go to this giant table, the biggest table they had there. And we were just this eccentric bunch coming in. And then you had like 4 or 5 other people that were sitting at the table, like just straight-laced, average Joe and Jane, And then here comes Rob talking, and then we're all coming there. And I remember like halfway through the meal, Rob was just like kind of at the end of the table. He was talking about this and what we need to do and then wrestling and this and that. And by like halfway through, I look over, and these regular people that were in a conversation amongst themselves when we came in, they were just looking at him like their jaws were dropped, like not disgusted, but just like they were captivated by him.
Well, I give him credit, man. I mean, he's got a shtick to him,
Yeah. Not too many people like him at all. I've never.
No, he's interesting for sure, and I got it. I knew what I kind of. It's an East Coast thing, I think, too. He's from New York. He's from Rochester, and he was, when I say flamboyant, not in a way that but he had the shtick, he had the flamboyancy. He was interesting.
Yeah, he was very interesting. He was a bit of an enigma too.
Yeah, no, I mean, he could talk. He could talk people into doing shit. I used to chuckle like some of the shit that he would come up with. I mean, I remember, a couple of times I was kind of like, dude, you gotta watch what you're doing here because there's, I think at one point, like he knew I kind of really wasn't into the wrestling thing, and you know how Rob, if you piss him off, it's like he's gonna get you some way, or make fun of you, and I let shit like that roll off. I always had a good, because I ended up working for the company that did. I used to go drop the masters off all the time for Xtreme to this company, called Intermedia, and they did our replication for our adult stuff. Mm-hmm. So then I ended up working for, because I kind of seen the writing on the wall. Like I figured this is eventually like going to go down a ball of flames because, it went from like porno to just being shock value stuff, and you start to be getting a niche market, even the wrestling. Like I get it, I get it, but the thing is if you're trying to make money, it's hard to get someone that'll bring their kids and spend money to guys, killing themselves.
Yeah. There's definitely a niche market for it. What was your what did it mean to you, Jake? Like you grew up, you went to the Spectrum and all that, but then you come out here and then we start doing shows at the LA Sports Arena. And to me, that was something else when we started doing it. But because that's the equivalent. I mean, I know we had the Forum and the Sports Arena in LA, and then Staples came later. But actually, you know what? I remember you, myself, and I can't remember who else, but we went down to Flyer for
and Goldberg was there.
Yeah, dude, yeah. And you're like
I should have speared him. To this day I should have. Remember, because we were talking.
I got you to pop though, dude. I got you to pop that day. I don't know if you remember this, but we were handing out flyers, and Goldberg came out to because the fans were filming it at the Grand Olympic Auditorium for Ready to Rumble, and we were like, yeah, well, there's going to be a ton of fans. Let's go Flyer. Okay, so we all go down. I remember I drove. You were with me, and then one or two guys in the back. I can't remember, but we go down there. Goldberg comes out while we're flyering. So I'm in the line. I'm like, hey, check out our wrestling show. See, it's going to be great. Hey, check out our wrestling show. Check out our wrestling show. And Goldberg's right there. And I just like he's just another patron. I go, hey man, check out our wrestling show. I think you'll like it. He goes, what are you doing, man? Like, because it's.
I remember that.
Yeah. And I'm like, what am I? Oh no, check it out right here. You can read it. Yeah, dude, you'll like it. It's like these guys are pretty awesome, dude. Yeah, check it out. Hope to see you there. Hey man, and you're like, I can't fucking believe you did that, dude. You just you punked him out. Like, you didn't recognize him. But I remember that all came back to me now. And I remember we drove down there, and that was right when they opened up Staples Center. We drove down there, and we looked at it because no one's seen Staples Center. We're like, holy crap. It was that was yeah.
I remember we were joking around because, like, I think too, I mean, I kind of forgot to say this, like back when I was home, before I got into wrestling, I would work out at this gym called the Sports Factory, and Shawn Michaels was in there one day. Okay. And I kind of looked at him, and I was like, damn, he's not that big. And so I kind of gauged myself to Diesel, and I had the long hair and all. And I said to him, hey, if your boy don't make it tonight, I can help you. Because I think they were like working together or something, because I knew the storyline. He goes, yeah, you could, so I kind of gauged that. So when I seen Goldberg, I'm like, wow, he's not that tall. He's wide, but he's not that tall. And I'm thinking, remember we were joking around because I think Darren was with us because I remember somebody.
Oh, I think Darren, D was, it was. I think it was the three of us, and maybe
he was like they were trying. He was trying to talk me into spearing him. He goes, just go over and spear him. I mean, I probably would have got arrested. We probably got in a fight, but it would have been a huge news deal,
Actually, I remember you guys we were all kind of sitting to this like across from the fans, and when he was out there, and I remember like when that brought up, we were talking about it, and like it was seriously being contemplated to do something like that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about it. Like, well, what's going to happen? Either I'm going to get arrested, and we're probably going to get in a fight. You know what I mean? But then like, what if he twists his ankle? Now I'm like some jerk off. Because they sent him out to meet the fan because they were putting the fans in for the audience for the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back though, Jake, like, was that special to you though when we got into the sports arena? Because it was for me.
I remember, you know what shows I actually liked, and I was thinking about this when we were talking. I used to like the Palace shows.
I knew you were going to say that. I had a feeling you were going to say that.
You know, like, remember when Lazy came along?
Mm-hmm.
I liked, you know, I got what his vision was, and he brought production value to it. I mean, he was a little. Yeah. You know, he was his greatest own greatest fan. I mean, I got along with the guy. I had to have a talk with him one time. He was getting a little egotistical for me, but to make a long story short, but he did bring, like, he was bringing, he knew the rock guy, so he brought Jonathan Davis.
Right.
I remember you calling Kerry King the singer, and he grabbed him like.
I know. I just
guitar player.
Yeah. I can't, dude. And I wasn't into Slayer then though. I got into Slayer later, but I still get shit, dude, and I deserve all of it, dude. Like, oh god damn it, dude.
I just remember that show, and then I just remember that show because like Lizzie was in the ring, and I think a couple of other girls, and like they're flashing, and then all of the adult girls that like know all the different other companies are in the audience, and they're flashing back, and then I think the manager of the thing's like, "We're gonna shut you down. You can't do that." And then I remember. Dude, I remember that. Remember that guy, Damian Dollars, that projectile vomited all over the ring?
Dude, yes.
I told Rob, I said, I will not wrestle him. I'm not getting thrown up on. And I just remember he was wrestling John Black. Wasn't his name John Black? He was one of the West Side guys.
Yeah, his real name was John Black. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was his name, right? Chronic from the West Siders.
Well, there was Big Rot and Chronic, yeah. And dude, those guys were good guys. I always got along with them. Man. So I remember he like throws down because I'm like hiding behind the curtains watching the match because I know he's gonna throw up because the guy threw up every match, and I'm like peeking through the curtains, and Glenn Barron, who used to do the stills for Xtreme for the adult movies, would shoot the stills for the show, you know. And he's like, "What are you watching, Jake?" I'm like, "This dude's gonna throw up. Watch." And I'm watching, and then Chronic throws him into the corner. And he starts laying the boots to his stomach, and I see him going. And I'm like, he's going to blow, dude. And he, at one point, before he like blew chunks all the way out of the ring, he tried to throw up in his pocket. Do you remember that? He was on the ring, and he's trying to vomit in his pocket. I remember it just coming out. And Chronic's kicking. I'm like, Jesus Christ. The vomit, it looked like the scene from Stand By Me. You know, it was just 10 feet of vomit. And I was like, oh, my God. Like, what the fuck?
Wow.
You can't pay for stuff like that.
No, man. Why would you want to?
Vince would have signed him in a minute if you would have
yeah, that's true, man. Do you have any stories, Jake, about, I mean, you mentioned Q, Big Rot, which, man, that guy was awesome, dude.
I ran into him a few years later. I was out in Vegas, and he was bouncing at one of the nightclubs. Little Darwin. He got me in. No, it wasn't Olympic Gardens. He was at like one of the hotel nightclubs.
Oh, you say strip club or nightclub?
No, it was a nightclub.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he would bounce all over.
I've been to Olympic Gardens, obviously, but everybody in Los Angeles, I think, has been to Olympic Gardens, you know. But yeah, he was working in some nightclub, and I ran into him, and he was super cool. Like those guys were always cool. Everybody was cool. I never had any issues with anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know everybody. You know, I didn't take it that serious. That's why. You know.
Yeah. You have any stories though, man, about any guys that we've been paying tributes to? Because you know we did lose Lester Supreme recently. Now you were pretty tight with Dynamite D too. You guys roommate. You guys roomed together. You guys. And then, of course, Q, like you just shared with us with him. But any stories, any cool stories about any of our friends?
I mean, you touched on Darren, and you know, we'll talk about that. I had an apartment, and speaking of Fester, he had this house that he was moving out of.
That's right.
That he rented, and he told me about it. And at the time, the whole house was like $1,300 or $1,200, and I'm like paying like $1,000 for a little apartment. So I was like, I want to get that place, you know. So I went over and got it, and I needed I was figuring I'm going to try to get a couple of roommates, right, just to offset the the expenses, right? Because it was watch a lot of wrestling pay-per-views. It was on it was actually right at the end of it was off of Reseda
Yeah.
and Beer Street. It had a big, it looked over Rinaldi Avenue and had a big deck, a giant deck on it.
That was that the one near Cal State Northridge?
No, I think you're thinking of something else. It was on the other side, right on the other side of the freeway. Rinaldi runs parallel with the 118
Got
at
it.
Reseda.
Right.
And
Okay.
so, to make a long story short, I get the house. So I'm thinking, who can I, and I didn't really know D. I mean, he was like pretty much the most normal guy that was like hanging around over there. And he had a job, So I said, hey, I got 2 extra rooms available. Would you be interested in renting one? Renting a room. You have to run the whole house. I mean, I had a double garage. I had the master room, but I had a living room. It was a big house. It was a nice sized house. And he's like, yeah, he goes, but there's he goes, the only thing is, he goes, my cousin Jimmy lives with me and he's got nowhere to go. And and I said, okay, no problem. I said, as long as he's not a slob, because I know I've seen Jimmy's interview with you. So I said to Jimmy, I said, $300 a month. So, okay, you got a room and you're paying $300 a month. You have full run of the house and stuff. And Jimmy's probably going to kill me for telling you this story. But when Jimmy worked at Xtreme, we would it's weird because these girls come into this business or that business and they see those world modeling ads because they advertised all over the nation at the time. And they see those ads and they come out and they think they're going to be the next big star in the adult business. And it's like they come off a bus. And sometimes, Jimmy picked up a few of the wayward girls and he would bring them home. And then he had this one there for a while. I'm like, I go, Jim, she can't live here. Like, I don't want somebody here when we're not here.
Yeah.
So, and at the time, he was a good natured soul and he didn't have the heart to kick her out. So I had to kick her out, basically kick her out. You try to sneak her in, like you try to, I'm like, Jen, like, I don't care, but like, she can't live here for free. Right. This isn't, the wayward home for, failed porn stars to live in California. This is not going to happen, And, but a funny story is when Darren first moved in over there, we also did some shoots like for Xtreme there, because I would be working. I was like, I didn't give a shit. I'm nice. I knew the lighting guy and I knew everybody there, they were my coworkers and my friends. So they would do, shoot some scenes at the house. So they brought over like all this bondage shit. We had like the big, like the X and the horses and, all this like S&M gear. And it was set up in the garage.
Okay.
So Taryn says to me one day, he's like, hey, he goes, it's like a month into it. He goes, hey, I've invited my parents over to, check out my new place. And I go, yeah. And he goes, what about the stuff in the garage? And I go, what about the stuff in the garage? And he's like, well, can you do something with it? I go, don't show them the garage. What do they need to look at the garage for, right? Look at the garage, So needless to say, I was out that night. So I come home and his parents were over. So I said to him, I said, how did it go? How did the tour go? And he goes, how did
the tour go?
He goes, I showed him around the house. I go, did you take him in the garage? He's like, well, yeah. And I go, okay. And he goes, my parents come in the garage and they're like, oh, what's all this stuff? And he's like, it's Jake's from work. And they're like, oh.
Oh,
and
man.
And you know what? I love his mom to this day. His parents. He used to invite me. I'd go over Christmas. And when I first met him, his grandparents were still alive. And they were like 101 and 102. And they were married like 77 years.
Wow.
And I used to talk to them. They were so cool.
Yeah.
And his mom's great. And
the best, dude.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of people don't realize, we were roommates, but, Darren was a little more quiet. I was in the bike and he was in the, he hung out a lot with, Dave Getch. They were into playing cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Card players and stuff. They enjoyed playing poker and doing their thing. And, but when he was doing his Mr. 80 shit, he would come home and I'd help him, we were like 2 kids making crafts, I remember he went to the dollar store and he bought, this rainbow colored tablecloth, and he made he did the Macho Man.
Macho Man.
The Macho Man. Yeah, and he had the hat, and he made it all with like wallpaper. You know, dude, it looked great. He had the Slim Jims, you know. Totally. So I would help him make his little gimmicks, you know, at the kitchen table. We would be laughing. It was funny, but awesome. What a great guy, you know. I mean, just he kind of kept me grounded, you know.
I see that. Yeah.
You could, you know, he was, you know, he kept. You know, he was kind of a hard egg to crack in a lot of ways. He wouldn't really open up about, you know, things about his feelings or anything, you know. I mean, but he was a good dude, and you can get an honest answer, and you know, super sensible. And I think he had, looking back on it, he had probably the best idea that they never, you know, took him on. But he always said that he said what Rob should have did, you know, and everyone. It's always, you know, hindsight's always 20/20, but back then he was saying that what they should do is take XPW instead of doing the faux kind of show, is sell it as a reality show, sell it as, you know, this is an adult company that's trying to do a wrestling company. You know, and
there's more of an interesting story there than the wrestling league itself.
Oh, way more, way more entertaining.
It's as much of a circus that wrestling is, that was the real circus. We'll talk about that. Jake, do you have any? Oh yeah, I was going to ask you. We are the only two, by the way. You and myself are the only two people in XPW history to ever be on the TV show Blind Date.
Yeah.
I don't know about yours, but I remember I just went on to try to promote the show. To promote XPW, but they wouldn't air any of that. They said, "What do you do for a living?" And I was like, "Well, I'm the play-by-play host for Extreme Pro Wrestling." And then when they aired, I'm the play-by-play host for Pro Wrestling. They took all that out, you know. So it was like all for nothing. But yeah, man, and that had no connection. You doing that and me, we just totally independent of each other.
You know how I got on it is another one of those. We used to watch it. Now and then, you know, it was on, and we would watch it. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I live in LA. I was like, I'll try it. So I went on it, and it was. I'll tell you what. This is something about credibility. You were talking about like legit, you know, production. And you know, the girl was cool. I wasn't on it to pick. I think she was seriously looking for, like this show, The Bachelor. Like, who goes on a show like that to look for their soulmate? I don't know. Dude, but this girl, I think, was actually looking for a date, you know, and I was just having fun. I went in character a little bit. I acted like a bonehead. I was like, hey, what's that? You know, and because I was having fun with it, you know, and I told them that I worked it around the thing, and you know, I told them I did replication for like adult movies, and they were like, oh, he's got a trunk full of Casablanca and stuff.
Right.
The fucked up thing was it was kind of weird because the chick was kind of cool and all, but like she was a little bitchy. But the producer gets me at the end of the night, and he's like, you know, he wanted me to call her a whore and stuff, and I'm like, the chick's not a whore. Like, that's fucked up. I'm not gonna go and trash this girl on TV.
No.
So
I remember they wanted to drama it up a little bit. Yep, they did, and they didn't want us talking together off camera. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. And we went somewhere, and the lady, we were doing bongo drums or something. And when we got there, the lady wasn't set up yet. So her and I had a cigarette, and that's when the crew came and said, whoa, you guys can't be talking. But we'd already talked. And I explained to her, I'm like, look, I'm quirky. Like I was going, oh, whoa, wait, oh, like all that, right? Wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
And she was like, what's going on here? And I took her aside, like, listen, I do professional wrestling. And she goes, oh, really? And then, I'm kind of promote. So that like took all like the pressure off her. She's just like, oh, this will be fun, you know? And she kind of went with it, you know? And then, but Roger Lodge and all the people with the editing, like, what's this guy's deal? I'm like, dude, I'm doing a shtick, dude, you know? Like, yeah, they didn't get it, but it was fun, dude.
I mean, you do it for the experience. I did it for the fun, you know. I mean, just to say I did it, you know, it's something stupid, you know.
Exactly, man. Where are you? Okay, going back now, XPW and all that. We were so we're on television now, Jake. We're doing home videos distributed worldwide. We're kind of getting our groove going here. Now you're on TV. You're on the Black Army and all that. Can you tell me, like, in your mind, what is your favorite match that you had, or favorite moment in the ring?
we did a bunch of stupid shit. It's funny because one of the things I just had a chance to see, I never even knew it was on it just till a couple days ago because I was watching stuff on YouTube, with XPW, just to bring back memories and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a little piece, I probably it's like the life and times of White Trash Johnny Webb, and there's a clip in there. There's a short quick clip in there of me powerbombing Big Dick Dudley through the ring at the Palace.
Okay.
And it was when we had like Nicole Bass and
that was Reseda or Palace?
No, I think it was. I remember I wrestled Big Dick in Reseda, but I believe it was at the Palace. I would have to look at it again. You may be right.
Okay.
Because there's not a lot of, because I had asked Kevin before. I was like, where's, like, is there any footage to be had? And some stuff that they have, some stuff they don't have. I don't know, probably legal reasons, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
But, I mean, the whole experience was cool. I enjoyed, like, I remember I wrestled Joey once in Ventura at the Royal Majestic Theater.
Yeah.
And I threw him through the table that was next to the ring, but I missed. I missed the table, and he hit the floor. And we got him up, and he's in the back, and he's like, "Where am I?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, where are you?" And he's like, "I don't know, where are we at?" And I'm like,
"Wow."
Take his ass to the hospital. I mean, obviously, I just overshot him. They put the table close, and I, did the thing. But I mean, every bit of it was just fun, And like I said, by the time I kind of went on my own way, you guys were already doing like the bigger shows and doing the stuff. And honestly, Chris, I mean, I was old enough to realize, like, I'm not going to go fucking kill myself.
Right.
I mean, I respect the guys that do all that shit, I do, but it's just, I see some of them and I'm like, damn, dude, like, fuck, they pay a high price. You pay a high price because I don't care who you are. I always did, I always work physical jobs. You get older, you're going to feel it. You know what I mean? You're going to pay a price for it. And
some guys have paid a major price. I was talking to Tool Gary Key, and he actually brought you up, and he was talking about where he was at that time in his career. He was a little bit older, and he mentioned, like, you guys, he would talk to you, and you guys kind of had the same mentality at that time.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, I'm not going to say I came up with the whole idea, but I will tell you this, at least I think I did. I remember one day that I was talking to Lazy, and I was telling Rob, because they were talking about doing a bondage line, and I said, and like, obviously everyone steals from everybody else. And if you ever seen the old movie called 8mm, do you remember 8mm?
Yeah, The Machine.
Yeah, I said to Rob, I was like, fuck, I go, I'll do the bondage line. I said, but I'll wear a mask and all. I go, so you can't see it, who it is, and I'll be like, we could do the line where I could whip the chicks and all, and I'll call myself Tool. And Lazy went, that's it, and he ran into Rob's office. Swear, true story.
Wow.
True story. And then, now I'm not saying, because there was a lot of ideas bandied about, and one of the ones that they thought was a big.
So you were gonna, and then there was another idea you were talking about.
You had Leroy on, and you guys were talking about Mulligan.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the Mulligan? It was the Gilligan ripoff, and I think Rob was a little shy on having comedy in his show,
A little bit.
But I think that my whole reasoning behind it was because I remember when Leroy was around, he always had like a slouchy kind of, his clothes were always slouchy. He was skinny back then, now he's not so skinny.
No,
he was skinny back then, and he'd have, like, his pants were always kind of falling down his shirt, and he kind of like round shouldered, and his hair was in his face, and he kind of reminded me of Bob Denver for Gilligan.
Yes.
So me and Damien were back there talking, and I remember saying it to Webb. In fact, Webb was ribbing me about it. He's like, "Oh, Mulligan." I said, "You got to realize something. Everyone knows Gilligan, so when you bring a character out that people already have an association to something, he's going to get over.
He's going to get over."
And I think it would have been funny to bring him out. And then even like, then Damien started ripping off. He goes, yeah, we could have, like, instead of the skipper, we could have the captain, and we could have, like, we could have cinnamon like another girl instead of ginger. And really, it probably would have been kind of. And I honestly think it probably would have gotten over pretty good and brought a lot of exposure because no one's ever done a Gilligan gimmick that I know of.
I know, and then you can play with it with the girls, like you said. You get a couple of porn girls as Marianne Ginger, and then maybe put Rob's dad as Thurston Howell or something.
I don't know if he would have went for that.
No, I would have gone for it.
Could have got Dick Nasty. He was old enough for it.
So Jake, where were you then when by the time you left, and what was going on? How did your departure come to fruition in XPW? What happened? Why did you leave? And
I just got like wanted a change of pace, and I ended up I kind of seen the writing on the wall. I was thinking, I don't know how much longer this madness on the adult side was going to last, and I never had any hard feelings with anybody. I just went to the other place, and it was like a different thing. It was a different job. I just went for a little better job, a little more money, and then something a little bit more grounded, and I have no qualms. Everybody was cool to me. I never had to eat with anybody. I used to have to go over there, and because we did the replication, so I used to have to go over when they moved to the other place in North Hollywood.
Yeah.
And pick up the checks and stuff like that. So I never had any heat with anybody. And I enjoyed watching the show, and you're always going to have gossip. You're always going to have bullshit. You're always going to have people with their feelings hurt over anything. But like I said before, I always respected Rock because he was passionate about it. And believe me, if I was his age and I had a business like that, the last fucking thing I'd been doing was spending money on wrestling. Believe me.
I'm sure you, his dad, and probably his financial advisors were not the only ones that told him something like that. So what were you when looking back at all of it, Jake, knowing that you grew up in the wrestling business, or you grew up back in the day, you knew wrestling in a lot of different eras. Where do you look at, not from a standpoint of you working in XPW, but what do you see as in the history of pro wrestling? What did that the little blip of the radar that we were there? What in your mind is going to be the legacy of XPW?
It's interesting. I mean, I watch your videos. I see that people respond to it. It is what it is. I mean, I think it was obvious that it was Rob's kind of version of ECW. I mean, it was, I mean, I read from the name. We know he was trying to get involved with it. I seen, I was watching some of the guys. I think you were talking to Joey, and they were saying like guys were like, a little upset that he was bringing in some foreign, some of the other guys from the other leagues. But that's the business, I get why he was doing it, and like I said, it's a different vibe back east, It's funny, like in my personal experience, like even to this day, just the other day I was talking to somebody, and when I picked the name of Jake Lawless, I figured I wanted something that was edgy. I kind of was thinking like Randy Macho Man. It could be a real name, and even when I say it to people, they all say, "Oh, I heard of you," and I know half the time they don't. They just know the name. They hear the name. Like I stole the Lawless off of Blackie Lawless, and I stole But as far as XPW, I mean, we live in a digital realm now, and everything's for forever, and it's interesting. I think Rob definitely made a mark, or not. I shouldn't say Rob. The company itself made a mark, and the deal, dude. A lot of guys put a ton of hard work, and props to everybody. Kevin Kleinrock, Webb, editing, all that shit, and all the guys, the ring crew, it's a show, and everybody puts in their 2 cents, and sometimes great experience for me, just in the time that I was there, because it was just fun,
A lot of fun, man, and again, it's just doing the show, because of the pandemic, and when I was approached to do this, it was like, and then when I thought about it, I was like, okay. And hearing what you just said, and pretty similar sentiments from a lot of the guys. It's amazing how that all unfolded and how it happened, and that all the like minds kind of coming together, you know, and the fans, dude. Like, again, people still so very interested in this, you know, like it's just so cool, you know. And we were lucky enough to be on that side of it, to have had that direct experience of doing that. But no, but before we close out, Jake, I just want to again thank you very much. It's really been great getting back in touch with you here and shooting the shit.
I got a question for you.
Sure. Yeah.
What happened to the blonde hair? When I knew you had blonde hair.
That was a long time ago, man. That was a long time ago.
So like babies, they have blonde hair, and then it changes. Like,
I guess
you were
so.
a baby until you were like.
I was. Oh
man.
man. So when the first show, I was 23, and by the time we got on TV, I was 24. But like when that first home video was shot, I was about 23 years old, dude. Yeah, it's crazy, man. When I see like my stepkid, he's 17, you know, and he's still like, he's a little kid to me. And then I see people a little bit older than him, and I'm like, dang, I was that old. But then you talk about Rob Black, like that guy was only 26 and he was doing all that, you know, like crazy.
No, like I said, I give him props because he went for it, you know, and he had a shtick and he was persuasive. I mean, I used to just chuckle. I used to have to go in the other room and just laugh to myself some of the shit. And you know, the sad thing, Chris, is like just the climate now with this cancel culture. It's like another time that'll never exist again. I mean, there wasn't a day gone by that you couldn't open the door in that place and there'd be somebody offended about something.
You know,
this is how it was, you know.
You know, this, what I'm about to say, could be a whole nother show, but we were also talking to one of our previous guests. The fact that, like you said, you've been watching some of the stuff on YouTube, right? That people have been recently posting of XPW. Excuse me. But one thing that I kind of like dove into and I really kind of became aware of, I was watching our product, and I'm watching myself with Rivera and all that. And I looked at where I was at that time, right, in my life, and also where I was in that moment. And I remember, what I thought is like, wow, I totally escaped into this announcer guy, Kris Kloss, that thinks it's all real, right, and important. That is a different person, right, than me, and just same with you and everybody else. But I realized, dude, like, I was able to escape fully into that character without any worry of the real world of what I was saying, because it's entertainment. It's a different person. Now I feel, and there are people in entertainment that have been talking about this, but if you go and escape into a character, which you are supposed to completely commit to and escape to in acting, right, become that person, it's very difficult now to truly become this person, because, wow, what I say here in this script of entertainment, I can't fully engulf myself in this character now, because part of me has to still be conscious of the real world while I'm faking this fake character in entertainment, because I might offend somebody, which has nothing to do. These are two separate things. It's entertainment. So I'm watching myself thinking like, wow, look I was totally escaped into that. Didn't matter what I said, whether it was controversial, racial, sexual, whatever, because it's not real. Now I'm like, wow, I couldn't do that today. I would have to be aware in the character. I have to like not commit fully now, because I have to, even though this is not real, I might offend somebody real in this freaking show that I'm doing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the general point that if you're being politically correct, then you're not being honest. So it's the point of it.
Why am I having to protect this while doing a play, a script, whatever? Why do I have to even be remotely thinking about the real world in that moment? I can't. Now I cannot fully escape into that character.
It just seems to me that we're going backwards. You know, It's like the 70s. Like, you know, as a kid in the 70s, you know, I think it's funny because, you know, we have our different views of things, but it's funny because like this song like YMCA became like a political anthem for a certain party. And I'm like, I'm wondering if half the people know what that song's really about.
Right.
You know, and I mean, but like, nobody cared. No one cares if you're gay or not. I really don't care. And like, I want to set this straight. Like even with this whole thing about racial this and you know, when I grew up, it was, you know, we used the term prejudice. Here's the bottom line. No matter what you are, someone's going to hate you for something. You're either going to be too tall, too good looking, too much money, got a nicer car, got a better house, black, white, Chinese, Asian, Spanish, whatever. There's going to be, it doesn't matter, you know, what, someone's going to hate you for something. And, you know, and they said this, this isn't my quote, but they said, hate's in the air. Even Mother Teresa had people that hated her. So like, stop worrying about it. It just, you can't let it affect your life. You know, people are going to not like you for something, or it becomes ridiculous. You know, it's like,
it is crazy within the realm of entertainment, though. Like I said, I was just like, kind of like, whoa, had this experience.
I was watching a YouTube video today, and they were talking about why people don't watch WWE anymore. Like, they're down to like nothing. And like, I haven't watched it in years because I like the Attitude Era. I'm not going to watch this stupid again. It's like, you're into kids, but you know, Vince has a corporation and he has to answer to the stockholders, and it's all, I mean, I guess they're making money. I don't know. You know, I haven't followed it in so long, dude. I can't even tell you who's who. I will say this. I about a year ago, I got the WD channel for a while, and I watched one of the WrestleManias before COVID, and like, I was just like wowed at the level of production. Like the camera,
it's unbelievable. It's to the point where like other sport entities are taking from WWE production.
Yeah. I mean, I was just like, the cameras and all, it's like you're in the ring. It's and then they got this giant LED screen. It was like one of the stadium shows where Hogan. I mean, it was so cool. It was really so cool.
Amazing.
So I do dig the production value of it. You know, I always did.
Unbelievable. Going back to the whole cancel thing, what you're talking about, not to get political at all, but I remember when I first got into it, and you know, whatever's going on in the real world, wrestling was always the escape, right? You escaped from the real world, social pressure, racial injustice, whatever. But when we were all in the back and we were in this land of kayfabe, make believe, it was like that was what brought the walls, the barriers down between all of us, because white, black, Hispanic, Asian, like we were all just clicking because we got wrestling and we were having fun with it. So we were all the same now in that world. So to me, that actually, what people want to say, you can't do this, that to me is what actually was a good thing and brought us closer together. And then we started to see each other for who we are instead of our label at that point.
Well, I mean, wrestling has always been about not the exploitation, but the over exaggeration of stereotypes. When I was brought up, you know, you had the Russian bear, you know, he was Ivan Koloff, who's probably, I think, from Ohio or whatever, you know, and then you had, you know, everybody, you know, I mean, God, and I loved him as a heel character, was Waldo von Erich. The guy was goose stepping around the ring, Heil Hitler, and with a swagger stick and a hat, you know, and like nowadays they would be like,
I mean,
you got to look at it. What's the intent? I mean, wrestling was made to, and the good guy always won anyway in wrestling. You know, they always talked about, you know, they talked about Vince, oh, you know, he's racist because he didn't put up it was about marketing. I mean, he was, you know, he used Bruno because it was, you know, I mean, if you look at the average people that go to wrestling, it's a white crowd. At least it was back then. You know what I mean? You're going to always go to you're going to market to who's going to buy your product, you know? But
also too, and I mean, not to say there was fairness all the time. Of course there wasn't. But like what
life isn't fair, you know.
No, life isn't fair. But what you're saying too about like the foreign villain, for example, they had him, but they were the heels. They were what we were saying was evil. That's what it was. So we can't even say that they're evil anymore. We can't just talk about them at all. I don't.
You can. You just don't buckle into it. Just do your thing.
Of course. Well, dude, like I said, man, that's a very interesting a whole nother show in itself. And you're always welcome back on, my friend. But to close out here, Jake, like I said, man, appreciate you. Great catching back up with you, my brother. It's good seeing you, man. And
same here. We'll have to get together and get a beer sometime.
Absolutely, dude. And is there anything
around?
You got it? Is there anything you want to say? Any plugs for yourself, or any one thing you want to say to the fans, or anything?
Don't take life too seriously, man. Have fun, and just keep on keeping on. That's all you can do. Well,
thank you, Jake, and for everybody here at the Wrestling Chatter. Cheers, brother. Cheers. For everybody here at the Wrestling Chatter channel, this has once again been Xtreme Memories. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Turn that red to gray. The more you do it, the more we can bring these shows to you. For my guest, Jake Lawless, the tall, cool one. Yeah, Jake Lawless. This is Kris Kloss with Xtreme Memories, and we will see you right here next time on the Wrestling Chatter channel. Thank you, guys.
Have a good night. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for watching Xtreme Memories, hosted by Kris Kloss. He's dropping new episodes every month on the 15th and 30th. You can be the first to tune in by subscribing to the Wrestling Chatter channel right here on YouTube. See you next time.